Welcome to Finding Avalon, the podcast that amplifies disabled voices. I'm your host, Jenna, a disability inclusion advocate, communicator, and storyteller. This is a place where disabled folks correct the narrative by sharing authentic lived experiences. Join me as we explore life with disability through our lens, because representation matters. Hello, people. Welcome back to Finding Avalon, a place where disabled leaders and changemakers correct the narrative around disability, one story at a time. On this episode, we're joined by a special guest, Charlotte Paul. Charlotte is an Indigenous woman from Glooscap First Nation here in Mi'kma'ki. She lives with multiple mental health conditions and has found innovative ways to deal with her disability symptoms with a focus on all natural healing approaches, including time spent in nature and through animal therapy. Charlotte is also a wife, a mother of 3, a sister, and a grandmother of twin grandsons. She dropped out of high school as a teen mom, but was determined to complete her high school diploma as soon as her children were more grown. And in her 30s, not only did Charlotte finish her diploma, she graduated with honors. With a heart set on healing people, she powered on to make some big moves towards realizing a dream that would have a meaningful impact in her community. Welcome, Charlotte.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for being part of the show.
Oh, you're very welcome.
What do you say we get right into it?
Sounds fantastic to me.
According to Stats Canada and the Canadian Mental Health Association, mental health disabilities are rapidly rising, a sure sign of the state of the world, especially in the last half-decade since the pandemic. In fact, studies say mental health disabilities have more than tripled since then, with the impact being felt especially by youth and working-age adults. More than 1 in every 4 Canadians report that their mental health symptoms affect their daily functioning. Among these numbers include 38% of Indigenous people who reported mental health struggles as well. Charlotte, what would you like to share with us about your journey living with mental health disability?
Well, first of all, it's quite tough living with mental illness and a disability. When I was a young girl, I was probably, I would say, about 6 years old. I think that's when it first began. I was always very quiet. I was always very shy. I didn't speak. So my mom took me to doctors. They thought I couldn't speak. They thought that there was something wrong, something seriously wrong. Anxiety and depression just at a young age. I thought as I was getting older, I was going to just grow out of it, but it wasn't the case. To me, I was born with anxiety and depression. It's hereditary. Mental illness runs in my family. So I was one of the ones that just kind of, I got it and I live with it. And every day is a daily struggle. It affects my daily life, my schooling, my learning, my social life, my family. Some people just don't quite understand what mental illness is. Anxiety and depression sometimes just takes over your whole life. It's a daily struggle of trying to balance mental illness and anxiety and depression, and people just don't quite understand.
Take your time.
Yes. So I married at a young age. I had 3 children. As a parent with mental illness, it's tough. It's tough on the father of the children. It's tough on the children because when I have a meltdown, they don't quite know what's going on. They always think that it's their fault. It's really not their fault. It's just the feelings that I have. It could just be something small. It could be something large. I always describe myself as I'm in a mason bottle full of water, and I'm always trying to swim to the top to always kind of get a breath. And I'm always fighting with myself. The feelings, some days I'm great, some days I'm not so great. So I try to balance myself out and I try to fight that anxiety and depression. I went to the doctors because sometimes you just don't know what else to do, don't know where else to turn. Go to the doctors. The doctors want to give you medication. To me, that didn't help me. That almost made me feel worse. That almost kind of made
Mhm.
me feel suicidal. That almost kind of made me lose my marriage and lose my children and lose my job. I found a way to cope, more natural. So, animals in nature, also journaling and hot baths. So, those are a few things that I do to help myself cope every single day. When you live with mental illness and anxiety and depression, you fight with yourself every single day. What you're going to do, where you're going to go, how I'm going to get dressed today. Sometimes it's just a daily struggle is I just got to stay in my pajamas today. I don't have the strength to get up and get dressed and go out to the public. I feel like when I'm out in public, I'm always being judged. People don't know that I have anxiety and depression, but I feel like they do.
Mhm.
I feel that they look at me and that they're judging me. I find that I have a 1 week in every month. So I think that's pretty good. So 3 weeks in a month that I do very, very well. 1 week I don't do so well. Thankfully, I have a good partner that actually understands. So when I have a meltdown, he actually knows. He said because my eyes change. So my eyes change color and he's like, "Okay, I'm just going to step away. I'm just going to give Charlotte time. I'm going to give Charlotte space." And he understands. Some people don't quite understand what
Mhm.
anxiety and depression actually is.
For sure, because if you're already emotionally dysregulated in a moment of anxiety or panic, very often, and I can speak for myself on this too, very often, the more smothered and surrounded you feel with somebody right up in your face who may be really just trying to help, they will send you completely over the edge. I find it, and I just want to flee.
Absolutely, fight or flee. And usually
Hmm.
I flee. I'm like, I just want to be by myself. I just need I need a hug first. So give me a hug and then let me be.
Yeah.
Living with it's just really hard to explain.
I think you've done a
Yeah.
wonderful job explaining it.
When I was on medication for a little bit because I'm like, hey, if this is gonna make me feel better, if this is gonna help me be a better mom and a better wife, I'm gonna give it a try.
Hmm.
But it was completely opposite. I felt like I was intoxicated. I couldn't
Hmm.
drive. I couldn't focus. My mind was such a blur. I couldn't do anything.
Hmm.
And I went back to the doctor and I said, I don't, this medication's not for me. And all the thoughts that I was having and they said, oh no, you got to give it time
Yeah.
to work. I did give it time to work. I still had the same thoughts, and it just was not good. So I
Hmm.
decided one day for myself, I'm gonna wean myself off this medication. I'm done. I'm completely done feeling this way. Way, way worse than I ever did before. During this time, I divorced. I was fighting for my children. I lost my job. My vehicle got stolen. Lots of stuff in my life
Oh.
just completely turned upside down. I said, "Okay, I'm going to the doctor. I don't want this medication." She didn't think it was a good idea, but in my heart, it was a good idea. I followed my heart and I followed my soul and I weaned myself off the medication. Here I am. It's been probably about 15 years medication free. I don't take any type of medication whatsoever for anxiety or depression. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder too, and I refuse to take the medication. I also found that maybe it wasn't bipolar disorder that I was having. I think I was experiencing grief at the time, and doctors thought it was bipolar disorder. I was going through many changes in my life. My life turned upside down. Now that I know, I don't think I did. But
Hmm.
I don't know for sure, because I do still have mood swings, and I still have those thoughts every once in a while. But I was also experiencing grief, yeah, like I lost everything in my life.
Yeah, when you're going through intense moments of trauma or loss, it can probably look very much like a lot of different things. We do know that in women, bipolar disorder is often overdiagnosed and quickly diagnosed, and often ends up being changed once a woman has been assessed for neurodivergence, for example, and other conditions. And so, thank you for sharing. That's a very vulnerable share. Thank you so much for talking about that and about how you're coping. So, Charlotte, I met you at an event about neuroinclusion last year where I was a speaker. And after the speaking portion was done and we were able to mingle and socialize, you and I got chatting, and I was super intrigued with what you were sharing with me about the work that you do down in the Annapolis Valley here in Nova Scotia. Could you tell us a little bit more about Dragonfly Haven Therapeutic Farm? How did this dream of yours, how did it come about?
Well, I went back to school as an adult and I got my high school diploma. And then I continued my education at the social services course at NSCC. I wanted to be a probation officer, so I wanted to just help people, and I didn't know how to go about doing this. So yeah, I took the social services course at NSCC. It was a 2-year course. The first year I learned about myself. The second year we learn about others. The second year was a fantastic experience. In one of our classes, it was how to create change in your community. It was a class project. So I created a therapeutic farm of all natural healing. So I just wanted to be a farm of all different variety of animals. I wanted everything to be natural. I wanted the woods and the land in it. And I just want everything to just be so simple. So I created this project. I submitted it. Oh, I felt so great about this project because my heart and soul was into it. I was a farmer when I was a little girl. Well, my parents were farmers when I was a little girl, and I always loved animals. But our farm was for a different purpose for growing up. So when I created the therapeutic farm, I just wanted animals to love and the animals to show us love in return. So this class project was fantastic. But it sparked my mind. I always wanted to be a farmer, but it just kind of, I got kind of busy in life with my children and my husband and my job. But I'm so glad I went back to school. It was meant to be. This class project came back. My teacher said what a fantastic idea it was. That's all I needed. I needed that spark of a stranger to tell me this is a fantastic idea.
Mm-hmm.
In this plan, in this project, I had everything. I had the business plan. I had how I wanted to set up the farm, all the animals I wanted. It was my dream. My dream was in this project. So then I just kind of stuck that on a back burner for a little bit and I continued my education in criminal justice. I still wanted to be a probation officer. I wanted to help people. So I finished the criminal justice course and I went right back to my business plan. It was in my heart that this is what I needed to do. So I opened a farm called Dragonfly Haven Therapeutic Farm back in 2017. People say to me, why a dragonfly? They think that it's a dragonfly farm. So the dragonfly represents change, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually, in my Mi'kmaq culture. So I was actually the first Mi'kmaq woman to graduate from social services course at NSCC. So here I am.
It's
I'm doing it.
it's wonderful, and that's a huge milestone as well.
It sure is, especially being a Mi'kmaq woman with anxiety and depression and going back to school. That was a huge step. Not everybody can do it. I didn't think I
Mhm.
could, but I had a good support network. When I said, okay, I'm going to give up, they said, oh, no, you're not. You're going to pause for a moment. I paused for a moment. I got right back on my feet and I continued. And I tried my best. I did everything I possibly could. I balanced a job, schooling, and raising 3 children.
And all of that while coping with mental illness.
Absolutely. Fighting with
It's
myself every single day. I think I'm proud of myself because when I dropped out of school being a young teenager, I never thought that I was going to be able to graduate, graduate high school and graduate from college. I
Mm-hmm.
never thought I could do any of that because I thought my mental illness was holding me back. But most of the teachers at NSCC understood. When I went back to an adult high school, they understood my learning. I'm a very creative learner. I learn with my hands. You can tell me something, I can remember it, but I am not a book learner. I have a really hard time studying words and a test. I have complete anxiety when it comes to writing a test.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my faculty at NSCC understood that, and I could do it a different way. So I did a lot of my assignments by art or presentations. A lot of them understood that I was capable of learning and I excelled in everything I did, but I just couldn't study and answer questions on paper. You ask me questions in person to person, I can answer them. For some reason, the thoughts are in my head, anxiety takes over, and I can't put it down on paper.
So you graduated and then you turned your attention to your therapeutic farm idea?
Yeah, so I went right back to my business plan and I said, "Hey, I'm going to do this." So I talked to my husband about it, and then he's like, "Hun, are you sure you want to do this? It's a lot of work caring for animals." And one big question he had asked me was, "Are you ready for death?" And I'm like, "What is he talking about, ready for death?" Because owning a farm, you're going to have birth and you're going to have death. And he
Yes.
asked me that question. And I'm like, "Oh, yes, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm going to do this." At first, I had 21 acres. I was actually renting a property in Mount Denson. Unfortunately, the owner of the property had to sell for personal reasons. So I was left with 1 acre and a house. But I still created that little farm. I always called it a little farm with a big heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I registered my farm in January 2017. July, I opened up my doors. July 1st, 2017, I opened it up actually. It was a Canada Day parade. Somebody had said, "Hey, are you going to bring your animals?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to bring my animals because I'm too fresh. I'm too new." So my husband's like, "Charlotte, you stay back at the farm and I'll take a goat." So he took a goat
To the Canada
to
Day
the
Parade?
Canada Day parade.
I love it.
He had a Cushman. So a Cushman is just like like a turf machine, kind of like a four-wheeler kind of machine. And on the back of it was a nice, beautiful wooden pen he made, and he took a goat. He drove through the parade and he invited people. He invited people to the farm. He's like, "Hey, my wife just created a farm. You guys should go check it out." $5 I charge people to come on in and pet my animals and see them and talk to me. So that was my very first. So July 1st from the parade, that's where my husband decided he's going to advertise.
I love it. What a promoter.
Right. He's great at promoting. So he's kind of behind the scenes kind of guy. He's kind of shy. He does the infrastructure on the farm. So kind of builds my pens and paddocks and repairs doors and anything that I need. He's kind of behind the scenes. So that's where it began. I had customers that came in from the Canada Day Parade to come check us out. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. So I probably had about a handful full of people that day. I didn't know what I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't really quite ready to open. I just felt like I wasn't ready. My husband said, "If you're not ready now, you're not ever going to be ready. So just do it." So he was a great supporter of just kind of say, "Hey, Charlotte, I'm pushing you and you're going to do it." And I'm so grateful that he did, because if he didn't, I don't know where I would be today. I probably wouldn't even have a farm because I just still wouldn't be ready. Those handful of people came, they had a great experience. At that time, I had 1 donkey, 1 horse, 2 goats, and a couple pigs, and a couple bunnies and guinea pigs. So just a handful of animals. People came in and they talked to them and they hugged them and they loved them. And then those people told more people. Those people came to, and it just kind of tumbled. So the best advertisement is firsthand advertisement
Hmm.
because it's experience.
That's right.
Yes, we are a safe, non-judgmental farm environment. So when you come to the farm, you're going to experience farm life. You're going to experience a smell of fresh hay. You're going to experience a smell of different animals. You're going to just experience the real life. You're going to see poop. You're going to smell poop.
Yep.
You're going to have all different senses of the farm environment. Beautiful sunny days. It's going to be cold sometimes, but that's the way farm life is. Different experience every season.
Hmm.
We're a non-judgmental farm environment for people living with exceptionalities, difference in learning, PTSD, mental illness, such as myself, addictions, and for anyone to step away from the stress-filled world we live in to use a healing power of nature and animals. So we're a dedicated group of volunteers. We do everything from training the animal to cleaning them and caring for them and feeding them, spending time with them, reading stories to them, hugging and loving them. We give the animals love, the animals give us love in return.
Hmm. And it's like a family affair and community volunteers as well as family volunteers. So it's like really got a lot of heart and soul, I feel.
Yes, our farm has grown in the past. So, like I said, we opened in 2017. Here it is 2025. We actually purchased a 36-acre property in West Brooklyn, Nova Scotia. On this farm, we are growing. So we actually have 4 barns, 36 acres. We make our own hay. So that's a great experience for somebody to experience of how hay is
Yeah.
actually made. So
Hmm.
on our farm now, we actually have 6 horses. We have 5 donkeys. We have 5 goats. We have sheep, pigs, bunnies, and guinea pigs. And we're expanding. So when you come to our farm now, it's a little bit different. You're going to get the great farming experience with many animals. So you can hug them and love them and feed them. Just spend time with them. You can just tell them your worries.
Hmm.
So animal therapy, it relaxes you. I don't like to call it therapy though, because therapy kind of scares people. Sometimes I do one-on-one sessions with people. So I always say, hey, let's go. We're going to Charlotte's farm. I don't want them to tell people, hey, you're going to go to a counselor today. You're going to go to therapy today. It's not like that. It's all natural. You are getting natural therapy, but the T word scares you.
Mm.
So when you come to the farm, we are open by pre-booked visits. So when you come, it's private. So you're not going to come here and 60 people because people scares people,
Yep.
especially people with anxiety and depression. They drive up to the yard, they see the yard full of people. No, not going in there today. So we do pre-booked visits. So it's more comfortable experience so people can kind of get that one-on-one with the animals. So they can go in with the horses, they can groom them and feed them. They can go in and hug a donkey. They can feed
Hmm.
some goats. They can go in for sheep snuggles, bunny and guinea pig snuggles. Pigs love back scratches and belly rubs. You can also do that on our farm. So it's very interactive and it's all natural healing. You can go for a walk through the forest if you want to. Even take a horse for a walk. Sometimes you just kind of need that animal or that person to kind of talk to that's non-judgmental. Animals don't judge. Animals love you because you're giving them the attention that they need. You're loving them and you're brushing them and they're like, "Oh, I love you already." And then they show us that they care for us and it's just like a hand in hand feel good hormone that we get released. Lowers our blood pressure, it lowers our anxiety, it lowers our depression, and it makes us feel good. Once you feel good, you want to do more.
Absolutely. And I guess there's that very human connection to nature because people forget that human beings are animals as well.
Absolutely. We need the weather, we need the sun. We need to breathe the fresh air. We need to stimulate our senses by touching an animal or smelling an animal. Sometimes we forget about that.
Yeah, and I feel like modern life disconnects us from our natural organic connection to the environment and to all of its creatures.
Absolutely. Even take off your shoes and walk through the field and just kind of ground yourself. Sometimes we just need to be grounded. The hustle and bustle of the world that we live in, it's so busy. Sometimes we just forget to take time out for ourselves.
I know when I visited the farm this past summer, I was really taken with Bridget the donkey. She had so much personality. What a character. Independent, curious, bossy. I love a bossy girl, or shall I say a strong woman. And then, like, she followed me around the entire time I was there. She let her presence be known. She was like a custodian. She looked like she knew exactly what she was doing, what she wanted. I have so many I have photos of all the animals, of course, but I have so many of Bridget. Can you, like, tell us a little bit about the different characters you have there on the farm and how you notice people tend to maybe gravitate to certain creatures more than others? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So every one of our animals here on the farm, they have a history and a story just like us humans.
Mhm.
So Bridget actually came from a farm in PEI. Bridget is 20 years old. We call her the grandma of the farm. She's full of wisdom. She's a leader. She is the donkey. You can go right up close and personal with her. You can hug her. You can love her. She'll follow you around. Just like you said, she's full of personality and she wants to be seen and she wants to be heard. Every
Mhm.
morning when I open the farmhouse door, when I'm ready to do my chores, she's the first one to let a bray out. It's like, okay, mom is on her way, everybody. She'll be here in a minute. So every one of our animals, like I said, have a different story and a different history, and different people levitate to different animals. So what I've seen was the smaller children levitate to the bunnies and guinea pigs, only because they're smaller, they're more comfortable, they're furry, and they're not jumping around as much. So they're nice and
Mhm.
relaxed. So a lot of the smaller children go to the bunnies and the guinea pigs. I find people who just aren't quite sure, that's never really been to a farm before, like the sheep, only because they kind of sit back and they kind of watch the sheep. The
Mhm.
sheep will actually wag their tail like dogs and they purr like cats. People are completely amazed just
They
by
purr?
they purr like cats. So sheep are completely amazing, and just even to touch their fur, it's just so furry and just I can't even explain it. It's just a nice touch for some people. Some people absolutely love horses, but not like pigs. So everybody that comes to the farm, they, like I said, levitates to a different animal. Some people absolutely love pigs because, hey, you're in a pig pen and you're giving pigs back scratches, belly rubs, and ear rubs. Some people don't like that because they hear horror stories about pigs. But really, the pigs are very sociable and they love people so much.
They were asking me for belly rubs. They were, like, throwing themselves, showing their bellies, and, like, making little grunts, and you had told me, "Don't be nervous," because I remember just thinking, you do hear these stories, "Don't get bitten by a pig, they've got very sharp teeth," or whatever the case is, so I was a little nervous, and you said, "No, no, like, they love this," and I put my arm in through, and I rubbed their bellies, and they had me there forever. They knew I was a soft touch. They knew I wasn't gonna leave because they kept asking, and I was like, "I can't leave now, they want more belly rubs."
Yes,
Smart, smart animals.
they really are. And as I was growing up too, we had pigs, but my dad always said, "Don't go in with the pigs. They're so mean." But
Oh.
it's how you raise them.
Mhm.
So some people come to our farm and they absolutely love donkeys, like just as yourself with Bridget.
Yeah.
Um, Gee whiz. Some people like goats, only because the goats have such a personality. They're just I call them the bozos of my farm, because they're such characters. They're always headbutting and playing with each other and jumping, and they just love treats. So we don't let anybody in with the goats, only because goats headbutt, and that's not fun if you get headbutted. But feeding them, it's fantastic to feed them.
I remember meeting Elsa, Paisley, and who was the other goat?
So we actually have 5. So Paisley and Flo,
Flo, yes.
yes, and Elsa, Sunny, and Bert. Oh,
See,
Blanche. I have
Blanche,
Blanche.
that's right. They were a little further away, but I remember that Paisley, Flo, and especially Elsa, they were so sociable with me and, you know, were peeking around the corners, like playing games and coming back up and very, very intelligent. I love goats so much. I always have this dream of having a little cottage by the sea and having goats. This is part of my dream. I'm speaking it into the world now, right?
Yes. Goats, they can get themselves into some trouble sometimes, those silly goats. So they can jump out of the pens. Yeah, tend to get themselves in trouble, but these goats that I have now, they're pretty content and pretty happy, and in their pen, they actually have a table and chairs that they jump and play on. They have a little swimming pool in there, and they just love people to come over to their pen and just feed them. They're pretty entertaining characters.
It feels like it feels like you've got something for anybody, whether a person is introverted, if they have a different neurotype, or if they're just having a day where they're feeling down and they may want to have just some time to pet an animal, or even if they don't want to touch the animal, let's say they have sensory issues and don't want to touch, they can still watch and be relaxed by watching them interact, and I really loved watching the donkeys and watching how they interacted with you. I have some great photos. They really, really love you. Wow.
Yes. Okay. So we have people that comes to the farm for different reasons. So we have some people that just come just to look. Hey, and that's okay. Like they're watching the donkeys play, or they're watching the horses groom each other, or they're watching the pigs give each other a belly root, I would say.
A belly root?
A belly root. They love
Do
to
they do it with
root.
their noses?
They
What do
do, they do. So they
Oh,
just kind of root each other. So just by watching the interaction of the animals, sometimes that's all somebody needs. Like some people might not want to touch an animal. You can come and you can watch. If you want to, you're welcome to brush the horses. So we actually have a container of brushes. So you can brush a horse or brush a donkey if you want to. You can hand feed the animals. I always say a hay bouquet to feed to the horses and
oh.
the donkeys. I don't like feeding from my hand to the big animals. So just put a bunch of hay in your hand. You create a bouquet and you feed it to the animals. They eat from the top, your hands at the bottom, all nice and safe. So anybody, even if you're nervous to feed an animal, you can feed them a hay bouquet. So it's just, yeah.
It's just safer, I think, because, they don't mean to nibble a finger. I grew up around farm animals too, and it's easy for a little accident to possibly happen. So I think a hay bouquet is a wonderful idea.
Yes.
Charlotte, can I ask you how we know people are coming in and experiencing like these one-on-one pre-booked visits? How do you and the other volunteers and your family prioritize the animals' welfare and make sure that visitors don't do anything to distress an animal, to make sure the animal is being respected at all times? Do you have people who are watching? Are you accompanying them? How does that go?
So once you come to the farm, I give you a tour of the farm, let you know a few rules, the animals that you can go in with, the animals that you can't go in with, animal that's maybe having a bad day, just like us humans. Sometimes,
Mhm.
they're just not having a very good day. So I take them on a tour, I show them all around, and I say, if you're going in with the horse and the donkeys, do you have the proper footwear? Flip flops and horse hooves do not get along.
Oh, no.
So if I see somebody wearing flip-flops or open-toed shoes, you might not want to go in with the horses or the donkeys today. But you can still pat them from the fence line, and you can still talk to them and touch them, that you won't be able to go in with them. So we do have many volunteers to watch over. So if we see something that we don't quite like, we usually have to go tell the people, "Hey, you might not want to do that. You're kind of disturbing the animal, and they don't like their mane being pulled, or
Hmm.
just different things that we may notice that we have to, yeah, the animals are our priority, and keep the animals safe and keep everybody around us safe."
And I noticed when I went there, you had the rules of engagement with the animals very clearly, placed there so the visitors could see it. And we know not everyone reads. And we know sometimes when you're giving a tour, sometimes people are just too busy taking pictures, not really hearing or listening. Maybe they're rushing through with their kids. And I think it's great that you have yourself and the other volunteers there to be able to keep an eye out because sometimes people just don't know how to behave around animals, have probably never been to a farm or have their own ideas about what an animal might like, and it's great that you're there to make sure that the animal's welfare is number 1.
Absolutely. So it actually takes a lot of time and training with the animals. So we try to desensitize them as much as we possibly can. So we use colorful parachutes just so they can see the fast movement, all the different colors. We take in wheelchairs and strollers. We're always touching them, like they're picking up their legs and touching them all over the place, just so if somebody touches them, they're not afraid. So it takes a lot of hard work and dedication from our team to desensitize all the animals, but they are still animals. So we do tell people, if a horse's ears go back, that's a sign you
Mhm.
may want to step back because they're not liking what you're doing. Or if a horse is walking away, they don't want to be patted today, so just let them walk away. So there are a lot of little things that we actually have to watch out for the well-being of the animals and the people who visit.
Mhm. And I think it's a pretty straightforward lesson in boundaries. Animals have their own boundaries as well, whether it's your pets, whether it's somebody else's pet, or if it's farm animals. They have boundaries and they'll let you know if they want you near them or not.
Absolutely. So when they want to be patted and groomed, they're right there in your space. Like, hey, love me, pat me, and give me a new mane do if you want to. But if they don't want to, they're gonna walk away. So sometimes maybe they're too hot, maybe they just had enough snuggles for today, or maybe the previous person might have pulled their hair when they were combing them or something. So it just could be just something small like that.
What's a common misconception or misunderstanding about disability, and how can we change that narrative?
Well, when people think of disability, they automatically think that maybe somebody's disabled, like physically. So maybe somebody's in a wheelchair, or maybe somebody's having difficulty walking, or difficulty using their limbs. But that's not always the case. You can have disabilities that's not visible. You can have disabilities that people can't see. And how are we going to change that? Education, one person at a time, to teach them that disability is not always physical. It can be inside.
I read a statistic from the World Health Organization and the UN and a bunch of other reputable sources that nearly 90% of all disabilities are not visible. They're non apparent. You could never tell by looking at a person. A lot of people, of course, because of signage and because of the education at a certain level that the public learns, they usually think of a white cane and dark glasses for somebody who has vision impairment. They may think of a wheelchair, like you had said, but there are dozens and dozens and dozens of disabilities that impact 1.6 billion people right now around the world. And
Wow.
90% of those, nearly 90%, are not obvious, not detectable. Even if you maybe are interacting with the person, we can't see what's happening under the surface.
Absolutely. Yeah, like people say, Charlotte, you're not disabled, or you don't have mental illness, or you don't have anxiety, or you don't have depression because you're always happy and you're always go lucky. But that's just a mask. That's just a
Mhm.
mask. I don't sometimes don't want people to say, "Oh, you know Charlotte from the farm, she has anxiety and she has depression," and but it's okay now. I accept that. I accept who I am, but it took me a long time to say, "Hey, I'm me. We all have something." If we
Mhm.
were all the same, it would be a pretty boring life.
Mhm. And a lot of people say those kinds of things. I've had people say to me, "There's no way you're disabled. There's no way." They will say, "Well, look at how you look at how you speak, look at how you dress." Even things like how I dress. And I explain to them what masking is, and these people obviously do need education, right? We can't always be their teachable moment every day because obviously our medical information is private. We don't have to share all of our background, our medical history, our traumas, whatever. When we do our advocacy work, yes, we often share details, but it's so important for people to take the initiative to educate themselves as well about what kind of disabilities. Somebody could have epilepsy. You won't know until there's a crisis situation unless you know that person very well. And there's also this, I think, social norm where people just look at somebody and make judgment about their health or their mood, or as they said, "Oh, Charlotte, you're so happy-go-lucky. There's no way that you have mental illness." Meanwhile, in the back of my head, the saucy part of me feels like saying, "And you don't look like a doctor." You don't look like a doctor, so I don't think that you can say that. But, I try to lead with kindness whenever possible, unless there are times that you need to bring out the big words. But I think that education, as you said, is so important, and it falls on all people in society, not just people like us who are really out there trying to destigmatize disability, but also people to learn that there are many faces of disability, many, many, many. Charlotte, for the Finding Avalon playlist, what is a song or two that you really enjoy and that speaks to your thoughts about disability or that just makes you feel good?
So my first choice, I'm gonna have to say, is "A Coat of Many Colors" by Dolly Parton. To me, we're all different, but we're all the same. So we all have a color, just like on that coat. We're all connected.
Is it kind of like a patchwork quilt?
Absolutely. Yes.
I like that idea because community is made up of every different shape and size and experience. And if that's represented by a color on some kind of tapestry, we are woven together as a community.
Yes, correct. I all together as, yeah, as one big community, and yeah, coat of many colors.
That's a classic Dolly song, too. Is there another one that you wanted to add to the playlist?
I would probably say my second choice will be "Concrete Angel" by Martina McBride. The song is about a little girl who has challenges in life at home. And I
Hmm.
think that that's really important for people to actually listen to that song. Um, it resonates abuse and neglect, and that song's kind of quite important to me.
It's been a long time since I've heard that song, but it is a very emotional, deep song when you listen to the lyrics. And I'm going to go back and add this to the playlist along with the Dolly song. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So, finally, in 3 words, whether that's 3 individual words or a simple 3 word statement, what does disability inclusion mean to you and why?
Proud of yourself. Be proud of yourself for who you are. Be proud of your culture. Be proud of who you are.
Yeah, it's so important to be proud of the life that we are living, regardless of challenges, right? Every human being, whether we have disabilities or health issues or not, we all have inherent value. And that is a source of pride. I love your outlook. I really appreciate that. So we're about to wrap up, and I wanted to ask you, is there anything else you'd like to share about your upcoming plans with Dragonfly Haven Farm? What have you got going on?
We have some pretty exciting stuff happening here on the farm. One is pig yoga. It's actually quite fun. We're out in the field where you have all these little piglets running around you. We have a yoga instructor. It's so much fun. We have such great belly laughs and the pig snuggles and belly rubs. So that's a pretty exciting activity to do here on the farm. We also have summer day camps so the children can come in and have the firsthand farming experience on the farm. So each day they learn about a different animal. They get to muck out stalls, they get to care for the animals, they get to do arts and crafts and have fun on the farm, like play in the hayfield and just kind of be free range children.
If I was a kid right now, I'd be all about getting there for a day camp.
We are just 1 hour outside of Halifax, so not very far at all. Actually, it's probably about 45 minutes from Halifax and about 2 hours from Digby. So we're kind of almost kind of in the middle of the valley. So when you come to the farm, it's a farming experience. If you want to come and snuggle a piglet or groom a horse or even kiss a donkey, we're the farm to come to.
Because of where you are positioned in the Annapolis Valley, it is a perfect day trip. It's my go-to day trip in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, it's just the view, just coming down the valley and all the different colors, and overlooking the Gaspereau River. It's just tranquility in itself.
It is so beautiful. So, if anybody listening to the podcast is living in Nova Scotia, please check out Dragonfly Haven Therapeutic Farm. It is really wonderful. I can tell you that for me, having quiet, sensory friendly bonding time with the animals out in nature, you feel the stress just completely evaporate from your body.
The farm is just a great place to let all your worries wash away.
Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your experiences. I want to say a very heartfelt Wela'lin, which is to those listening, thank you in the Mi'kmaq language. So, Wela'lin Charlotte.
You're very welcome.
Thanks so much for listening along to Finding Avalon, my labor of love podcast that celebrates and centers authentic disabled voices. I hope you'll follow, share, and rate this episode to help it reach even more people. You can also find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky to learn about the next guest who will be featured on the podcast. Special artist thanks and credit for the unreleased feature song, Coal Miner, written by Steve Hoskins, arranged by Naomi Kavka, and performed by Naomi Kavka, Bryn Porter, and Tony Kostelik. We'll see you the next time when Finding Avalon returns.